You wake up. Something is wrong before you even open your eyes. A bill. A text you haven't answered. A comment someone made yesterday that you can't stop replaying. Your mind finds it instantly, like it was waiting there all night. But somewhere else, right now, someone else is waking up to the exact same kind of morning. Same bills, same stress, same uncertain world. And they feel fine. Not because their life is easier, because their brain is doing something different, something you were never taught, something science has been quietly mapping for decades. You have been told that happiness is a result. Get the job and you'll be happy. Get the relationship and you'll be happy. Get the money, the body, the house, and happiness will finally arrive like a package on your doorstep. But the real answer is far stranger. Happiness is not a result. It is a filter. It is a way of processing information that happens before you even notice you're doing it. And once you see how that filter works, you can't unsee it. Start with your brain's oldest habit: negativity bias. For most of human history, missing a threat meant death. A rustle in the grass that turned out to be nothing cost you a few seconds of fear. A rustle in the grass that turned out to be a predator cost you your life. So your ancestors' brains evolved to weigh bad information more heavily than good. One study by psychologist Roy Baumeister found that bad events and emotions simply carry more psychological weight than good ones of equal size. A single insult can outweigh 10 compliments. A single failure can erase a week of wins. This isn't a flaw in you. It's inherited machinery. Useful on a savanna. Costly in a modern life with no lions. Here's what's strange. Happy people have the same machinery. The same ancient alarm system wired the same way. So why doesn't it dominate their day the way it dominates yours? The answer lies in what they do after the alarm goes off. Psychologist Sonia Lyubomirsky spent years studying identical twins, life circumstances, and long-term happiness data, trying to find out what actually determines how content a person feels. Her research suggested something uncomfortable for anyone chasing external wins. Genetics account for a significant chunk of your happiness set point. Life circumstances, the job, the house, the relationship status, account for surprisingly little. But a large remaining portion comes down to intentional activity, what you choose to do with your attention, your habits, your daily thoughts. Not what happens to you, what you do with what happens to you. That single distinction rewires everything. Think about two people who lose the same job on the same day. One spirals, replays the meeting, catastrophizes the future, feels like their identity has collapsed. The other feels the sting. Absolutely. Grief is real and valid, but within days starts asking a different question. Not, why did this happen to me, but what does this open up? Same event. Two entirely different cognitive paths. Neuroscience shows these aren't just attitudes, they're patterns. Repeated enough times, they become the default route your brain takes without you consciously choosing it. This is where psychologist Martin Seligman's work becomes essential. Seligman spent decades studying something he called learned helplessness, the state where a person or animal, after repeated failure, simply stops trying, even when success becomes possible again. But later in his career, he flipped the question. If helplessness can be learned, can optimism be learned too? His research on positive psychology found strong evidence that it can. People trained to reframe setbacks as temporary and specific, rather than permanent and total, showed measurable increases in resilience and life satisfaction. The event didn't change. the story the brain told about the event did. Notice the language happy people use, even in your own life, if you listen closely. This is frustrating right now, instead of, this always happens to me. I didn't get this one, instead of, I'm not good enough. Small linguistic shifts, massive downstream effects. Because the brain doesn't just react to events, it reacts to the story wrapped around the event. And that story determines whether stress becomes a spike or a permanent weather system. Why does this matter so much biologically?
Psychologist Barbara Fredrickson found the answer sitting in the body itself. Her broaden and build theory showed that positive emotions do something negative, emotions don't. Fear and stress narrow your focus, useful for escaping danger, but useless for almost everything else. Positive emotions do the opposite. They broaden your attention, your creativity, your ability to see options you'd otherwise miss. Over time, this broadened state builds real psychological resources, stronger relationships, better problem solving, more resilience the next time hardship arrives. Happiness in this light isn't a reward for a good life. It's a tool that builds one, and that tool has a name: reframing. It sounds simple, almost too simple to matter. But watch how it plays out in real time. You get stuck in traffic. Your first thought is anger, wasted time, ruined plans. A person practicing reframing doesn't skip the frustration. They feel it briefly, then ask a quiet question underneath it. Is there anything usable here? 10 minutes to think, a podcast to finish, a moment of forced stillness in a day with none. The traffic didn't change, the output changed. This is not toxic positivity. That distinction matters, and it's one the research is careful about. Toxic positivity denies the negative emotion entirely, forces a smile over real pain, and that suppression actually backfires, increasing stress in the body even while the face looks calm. What separates happy people isn't the absence of hard feelings. It's the refusal to let hard feelings write the entire story. They feel the wave. They just don't let it become the ocean. There's a longer, quieter piece to this too. Harvard's long-running study of adult development, led for years by psychiatrist Robert Waldinger, followed hundreds of people across their entire lives, tracking health, income, and happiness decade after decade. The finding that surprised almost everyone: it wasn't wealth, it wasn't fame, it wasn't even health in isolation. The single strongest predictor of long-term happiness was the quality of a person's close relationships, not the number of connections, the depth of a few. People who nurtured a handful of trusted relationships showed better health outcomes, sharper memories in old age, and higher reported life satisfaction, even when their circumstances were objectively difficult. Happy people, in other words, aren't just thinking differently about setbacks. They're investing differently in connection. They call back. They show up. They ask the second question, the one after, "How are you?" the one that actually listens for the answer. Put these threads together and a pattern emerges. Happy people are not immune to the same negativity bias, the same ancient alarm system, the same painful events everyone else faces. What's different is the loop that runs afterward. Feel it, don't suppress it. Reframe it, don't deny it. Widen the lens instead of narrowing it. Invest in the few relationships that matter instead of chasing the many that don't. None of this is talent. All of it is trainable, the same way a muscle is trainable, through repetition, through small daily choices that feel insignificant in the moment and compound into a different mind over years. Which brings the story back to that morning. The bill, the unanswered text, the comment you can't stop replaying. Your ancient brain will always find the threat first. That part was never up to you. But what happens in the next 60 seconds? The story you tell about what you found, that part always was. You wake up. Something is wrong before you even open your eyes. But this time, you notice the thought arriving, and instead of following it all the way down, you ask one quiet question. What else is true right now? And in that half-second pause, between the alarm and the story, you find the thing you were told to chase your whole life. It was never a package on your doorstep. It was a filter you were always allowed to choose.